welcome to Read It with Whiskey, the place to be if you are a sci-fi or fantasy reader. My name is Laura and I am your host. I am a reader, writer, and whiskey drinker here to share with you some amazing self-published authors within the sci-fi and fantasy genres. On today's episode, we have Julia Scott. I am so excited for this episode, you guys. So let me tell you a little bit about Julia. Julia is a British author whose goal is to take you out of regular life and teleport you to new worlds and alternate futures through her writing. The Mirror Souls is her debut novel, and like many sci-fi and fantasy books, it started off as a dream. In her other life, Julia lives in Essex, England with her husband and 2 children. She spends her time writing, helping authors with formatting, home educating, singing, and digging or planting stuff up in the garden without really knowing what she's doing. She is such a treat. We definitely dive into that concept of how this book came about from a dream. So let's talk about The Mirror Souls. The truth doesn't always set you free. Like the rest of the Gaian race, Alana's life is ruled by the Avalon, the superior race who once created Earth and returned to reclaim it after humanity brought it to the brink of destruction. Because of the Avalon, every Gaian faces the risk of being moved from region to region over and over with no warning. Alana has no place to call home. Fearing that she may be resigned to this life of control forever, the opportunity to explore the world outside of her region is literally dropped into Alana's pocket in the form of a small silver device. Taking a leap of faith and teleporting to the unknown, Alana must discover who is pulling the strings in her life and why. But in her quest for answers and freedom, she is unwittingly thrown headfirst into a hidden battle for humanity alongside a boy whose life was destined to be entwined with hers from the start. With the secret of who she really is starting to unravel, and abilities she didn't know she had rising to the surface, she becomes a commodity to whatever faction can keep her in one place. But others around her are carrying secrets too, and Alana must decide who to trust before she can change the fate of all the races. Julia and I had so much fun talking about this book, and I'm so excited to dive into the next book in the series, which is currently out. Book 3, as I am recording this, is not out yet, but it should be coming right around the corner. So let's dive into this interview with Julia. Welcome to Read It with Whiskey, the interview podcast featuring science fiction and fantasy authors. My name is Laura Juntunen, your host and the author of the Shockwave series. Within this podcast, I bring to you all the behind-the-scenes secrets to how these guest indie authors bring their books into the world. If you are a sci-fi fantasy reader, then you need to hear from these authors. Let's learn about the person behind the page. Sit back, sip some whiskey, and lean in to these self-published authors. Hello, Julia. Welcome to Read It with Whiskey. How's your day going so far?
It's good, yeah. And thanks for having me here. It's been a long time coming. Took a while to organize, but we got there in the end.
We got there in the end, yes. And I am so excited to have you on the show. We're going to be talking about your book, The Mirror Souls, and it's just gorgeous. We are definitely going to talk about the cover in just a little bit. But before we dive into what the book is all about, I would love for you to fill in our listeners with a little bit about you. How did you decide that you wanted to become a writer?
Yeah, I'm probably a bit different compared to other writers who say, I've been wanting to write since I was a child and all of that. I never wanted to write ever until I was, 32, 33, and I had a dream. And I woke up from this very vivid dream and thought, oh, that would make a great movie. And then I thought, well, I can't make a movie. I could write a book about it. And I told a friend and she said, oh, you should totally write a book. So I did, as you do. No, I stumbled across NaNoWriMo 2018, and I thought, I'd never heard of it before, obviously, because I wasn't into writing. And I thought, well, that sounds like a challenge. I'll do that. And so I did. And then I've just kind of got absorbed by the writing community on Instagram and just carried on, really. So that's how I got into it. But otherwise, I'm a stay-at-home mum who kind of does various network marketing businesses and stuff like that. So yeah, writing was just kind of a thing that got thrown at me.
Yeah. From the sounds of it, it happened pretty quickly. Like you had this dream and then your book came out within a year. It was fast, right? How was that?
It was 5 months.
5 months. Oh my goodness.
So, well, no, I had the dream at the end of 2017. it was percolating for a while. And I was writing notes over the year. And it wasn't until NaNoWriMo that I really threw myself into it properly. So obviously it took me 20 days to write the 50,000 words. And then I just carried on. And then once I was done, I threw it at an editor and got it edited and got the book cover done. And I just, I'm one of these people who just like throws themselves into something completely until it's done. If I have the ability to, but my kids were in school back then, so I had time during the day. I had the opportunity because I didn't have a full-time job or anything, so yeah, I managed it, but I do regret publishing it that quickly.
Yeah, a little bit. And you decided to go self-publishing right away. You didn't want to do the traditional route, so how did that decision get made?
That was pure impatience. Yeah, no, 100%. Because I went onto YouTube and looked up people who had self-published and people who had traditionally published, and there's a lot of videos on there, as you know, about people talking, which way they've done it and why. And I remember watching, I think it was both Kim Chance and Vivian Reese. One's traditionally published, one's self-published, and I watched their experiences. And Kim Chance was traditionally published, said took 2 years to get her book out in the world. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And I also, like I'm sure others have said, wanted more control over my book, over what it looked like. I didn't want someone going in and telling me that plot had to be changed or characters should be changed. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm one of those people. So yeah. Self-publishing, it seemed easy before I'd done it. Do you know what I mean? Like before you've done it, you look at it and think, oh yeah, you just, get your book ready and get a cover made and put it on Amazon. It's fine. But yeah,
it's simple. And then, hundreds of people are going to buy it that first day. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, you have to actually do marketing. Yeah. That's a recurring theme here on Read It with Whiskey, is that people didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. And that's one of the reasons why I created the show, because I self-published a book and I was like, wow, I did not know what I was getting myself into. And so this show is here to help other self-published authors to just get out into the world and find readers. And it's a whole process. So now that you are an author and you have a couple of books out, like, what do you think is your favorite part about being an author?
I just love getting feedback from readers to see what they liked and how they connected with the characters. I'm all about the characters and how people can see themselves in those characters, or, see their behavior and be like, yeah, that's something I would do, that kind of thing. I love hearing from readers who say, oh, that made me feel something. I like to make people feel something, but I think that's the whole point of being a writer, isn't it? But one thing I really struggle with is the first draft. Having a blank page freaks me out. So I'm one of those writers who loves to edit. So that's one of the things I love, is kind of molding something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I'm getting into the editing. I'm actually starting the editing of book 3 in my series today. And I love the editing process, because when you're doing that first draft, you can kind of, I also pants. I don't do any kind of plotting. So I just kind of write the words down. And then the editing is like putting everything into place and making sure it all makes sense. And so, definitely a fun process for sure.
Yeah.
And you have 2 books out.
Just those 2 so far. I have some other short stories here and there, but well, one's being published. Well, it will be published by the time this episode comes out, which is the Magic and Moons anthology. So I have a short story in there. And I also have a chapter about formatting, because I'm also a formatter in Indie Writing Wisdom. So those are my claims to fame.
Very cool. So let's dive into this series then. It is a trilogy. The Mirror Souls is book 1. And we're going to talk about book 1. We're going to try to avoid spoilers at all costs, but there are more books to come for this series. So tell us, what is The Mirror Souls all about?
Good question. The elevator pitch. Okay, I'm ready for this. I'm not ready for this at all, but I'll try. The Mirror Souls is about 17-year-old Alana Kane, who lives on Earth, which is now called Gaia, and Earth has been taken over by a humanoid alien race called the Avalon, who now run Earth. And all humans, well, the remaining population of humanity, which is much smaller, are put into regions, and they're kept in small areas on Earth and moved around. And Alana doesn't like that very much. And one day she finds an illegal piece of technology in her pocket, which is a teleporter. She has to decide whether to use it. And spoiler, she does. She ends up meeting a guy who she connects with, and chaos ensues.
Chaos ensues. I like that. Yeah, that basically sums up the rest of the book pretty perfectly.
Yeah.
But yes, this book and this whole series, I'm so excited to continue on because it's such a cool concept. And so I'd love for you to kind of elaborate more. You already mentioned that you had woken up from a dream, and that's where this idea came from. So can you elaborate on that inspiration and how it came to fruition?
Yeah, the dream was quite a small dream. So it's not like I had a whole plot drop into my head in the middle of the night, because wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, yes.
It was just like little snippets of stuff. And it was just, an alien race had control of Earth, and people were put in regions, and finding a teleportation device and it taking you to your soulmate. And that was kind of the dream. And it just kind of built from there, really. So yeah, it is soulmate related. And, we call it a sci-fi, but it could also be classified as a sci-fi romance. It could be classified as science fantasy. So it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Definitely. Yeah, the world building of it, because it is kind of like a dystopian. It's in the future. It could take place. Who knows? There might be aliens who are going to come over, take over the earth, and try to revamp our civilization. It could happen. So dystopian for sure. I think that was one of the funnest things, was diving into this new world. So what was that like, creating a whole different civilization and working system and everyday life for these humans who now have to interact with these aliens? How did that come about?
Well, the alien part came because I had a little bit of an obsession with the ancient aliens theory, conspiracy theory. I don't know if you've heard of it, but for those who haven't, it's a conspiracy theory that humans were created by an alien race. And so that's where this whole thing was from. So in the Mirror Souls trilogy, we are created by both the Avalon and the Midorians together. And then there was a cataclysmic event that kind of killed the majority of humans. And then basically the aliens took over from that point and created the world in a new way, in their perfect way. So it's almost a utopian dystopian, because people have likened it to The Giver, because living in regions it's very nice, but it's very controlled. So you're told what job you're to have, you're told whether you can have children or not. If you don't find a partner by a certain age, you are coupled with someone. It's utopian, but I don't know, I guess the control stuff is all the things I would hate to have happen to me. Like I said earlier on, I hate to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And Alana is that part of me, I think.
That frustration comes out in her character for sure.
Yeah, you can see that she's just desperate to leave. When she does get to leave, it's challenging for her.
And then she's not really sure, like maybe I did have it pretty good at home in this controlled civilization. Yeah. So we have some alien races, the Avalon and the Midorian. So can you kind of elaborate on what those creatures, aliens, look like, and kind of a little bit more about them?
My inspiration has probably come from things like Star Trek and Star Wars, but I wanted to keep it friendly for people who are new to sci-fi, because I think there's a lot of sci-fi that's very complicated and it scares newbies away. So I wanted something that would kind of ease them in gently. So the Avalon and Midorians look like humans, but they have identifiers. So they have tech that makes them look human, basically implanted into them. But when they're not on Earth, they look different. But they have an identifier. So the Avalon, they glow. So their skin glows like a light bulb would, kind of thing. Maybe not quite so bright. You can look at them. And the Midorians have violet eyes, which, I don't know, seems to be quite common in indie author books for some reason. I keep coming across it. I'm like, violet eyes. I'm like, maybe we're all just brainwashed to, think the violet eyes are cool. I don't know.
I love that.
So yeah, they're quite normal to look at. And that's what I wanted, for them to feel like they are part of humanity, but they're also not.
Yeah, and you have to kind of look close, because violet eyes, you could think it's a human from behind, but they turn around. Oh, your eyes are violet. You're not actually human. So this is a science fiction, and there are some sci-fi elements apart from, alien takeovers within the story. Things like teleportation with a CTL device, the concept of processing, the holodome. I really liked that concept within the book. So let's just take those one at a time. First of all, teleportation. I have always
Oh,
loved this concept. So much
yes.
fun. So why did you decide that you needed to put it within your book?
Well, it was part of the dream,
Okay.
obviously, as I mentioned before, but I hate to travel. I love to travel. I love to go to new places and see new things and the cultures and all of that. But the traveling to get there, I absolutely hate it. And anytime someone says to me, if you could pick one superpower, what would it be? I'd be like, teleportation. Because I want to go places, but please don't put me on a plane. I can't. So I thought that would be cool.
Yeah, and the CTLs, that's a device that the aliens created and they use it, but the humans really aren't supposed to have these devices. So our main character finding it in her pocket within those first couple chapters is a pretty big deal. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So next up is the concept of processing. So what is this and why is it important to this world?
Processing is where the Avalon will take a human and they will manipulate their DNA to change their character. So if someone is misbehaving, they'll take that person and they'll make them more compliant, that kind of thing. And this happens in the Mirror Souls to one of the characters. But for when they process Midorians, it's very painful because the sedation doesn't work on Midorians.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept to basically alter someone's personality, their self, in order to fit better in with this utopian world that the aliens have created. And I really resonated with like, not with that, obviously, I haven't been altered through my DNA, but but the fear of having to be changed to fit in better. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people can relate to that and they can relate to the characters and what they go through within that.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's all an aspect of control.
mhm.
All these things, it's part of the control that the Avalon have over humanity. And yeah, who would want to be changed via their DNA? You wouldn't want to be, would you? But we do all change.
And the holodome, what is this and how does Alana use it? Maybe.
The holodome is, well, it's a dome, obviously a domed
Mhm.
building, which is basically like the holodeck from Star Trek. Can you
Mhm.
tell I love Star Trek? And you can go in and you can view any part of Earth as though you're there, because all the walls turn into screens, which so it makes you feel like you're there. And the Avalon have put that there so that humans don't feel quite so contained in their regions and they can see outside of their region because they're not allowed to travel. And Alana goes to the holodome to go to Nordlice, which is where she first meets Aiden when she first teleports there. She
Kind of
wants to
like a
go back.
little form of escape for the humans to make them think that they're not under control. So they can.
It's also a nod to Ready Player One type thing
Mm.
where you escape via VR. VR headsets are becoming a big thing. The metaverse, you watch in the next 10 years, people will just be sitting there with screens on their faces and living their life in a fake little world. So it's a bit of a nod to that as well.
Definitely. So much fun. All right. So let's talk a little bit about characters. There was kind of like an accidental love triangle that happened.
Yeah. Ah,
Oh dear. I mean, we don't want to get into spoilers or anything, but that wasn't planned. So how did that happen? Was it just subconscious?
characters have a mind of their own, don't they? And I don't know.
Most definitely.
I don't know how it happened because obviously, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but Aiden is the guy she meets and has all the feels for. But then there's someone else who supports her when everything's going wrong. It wasn't supposed to be a love thing, but you have to read the second book to.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard to talk about that concept without giving spoilers. So
Yeah,
I did want to put it out there though that I was definitely interested in how it's going to turn out. I'm not going to say spoilers. It's so difficult to not say spoilers
I
sometimes.
know.
But I really liked the characters and how they evolved together and how relationships grew. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But of all of the characters, I like to kind of figure out who the writer likes the most, or maybe what character they liked to write the most themselves. For me personally, I really liked Jen, Alana's friend. I thought her character was really interesting, and I liked how it evolved. I'm just gonna put it at that. I liked her personality and her strength, and I thought she was a really good character within the book. So, how about you? What was your favorite character, or maybe who was your favorite to write?
I do love Jen. She goes through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She goes through a lot in the next two books as well. She has it quite rough, actually. She was fun to write, but I don't know. I did love to write Dre. I do love the mystery guy. And yeah, in this, the third book that I'm writing, so the final in the trilogy, he has some of his own chapters, and it's actually been harder to do than I thought, because when you've got a mystery guy who no one really knows what he's thinking, now you actually have to tell people what he's thinking. It's like,
Right.
it's hard. But I like him. He's fun. But
And do you think, going back to the main character, Alana, do you think you put a little bit of yourself in her? I like to ask authors that too, because I know I do that when I write subconsciously.
I think you can't help but put aspects of yourself in your main characters, to be honest, because I mean, any writer who says, "Oh no, nothing of me goes in my characters," it's like, no, because that's the point of being a writer, is you put your experiences and your thoughts and your fears and your feelings and stuff, into word form. That's why we write. That's why most of us write, I should say, because not everyone's going to be the same. But Alana definitely has aspects of me. I've even had my friends who've read The Mirror Souls say that to me.
Yeah.
Like, Alana's just you, isn't she? I'm like, no, a little bit, but no.
Oh, I love that. I think if we did talk any more about the characters or plot line, we would go into that spoiler territory, as it is very easy to do. So let's talk a little bit more about the book itself. So you do formatting, and might I add that this formatting is absolutely gorgeous. I love the full dark page at the beginning of each chapter. And I don't think I've seen a full dark page in any books that I've read, at least for the podcast. And I just liked the beauty of the formatting, and then the cover too. So is that something that you have always been really good at, is the formatting, or did it really take a big learning curve and practice to develop your skills?
I've always been a prettifier of documents. So in my previous jobs, if someone's given me a document to fix, I can make stuff look good. I was going to try and do the cover myself, and I attempted it, and I looked at it and went, no, I'm going to pay someone to do this. Covers are a whole different ball game. It's not for me, I don't think. I think I could probably learn, but I just don't have time at the moment. Formatting, I just knew I could do it myself, because I did it in Microsoft Word, my own books. Now that I'm a formatter, I do them in InDesign. But yeah, my books are still done in Word. It's doable. It's actually, you're looking at the second edition of the book, because I rushed edition 1, and this is the second cover this book has had as well. So yeah.
And I like that the covers, they all match. So book 3 isn't out yet, but is the cover out on your social media now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I think I saw the cover out on your social media. I know the second one is out, so I've seen that one. And they all just look, if you put them up next to each other, oh, they're just so beautiful.
They have, I wanted to go for the 1, 2, 3. So book 1 has 1 character on, book 2 has 2 characters, book 3 has 3. And I love how it looks. Yeah, I was so pleased with them.
So beautiful. All right. So tell us, do you have any upcoming projects that you're working on? Obviously, you're finishing up book 3, hopefully getting that one out within the year or so. Do you have anything else you're working on?
As soon as the original Midorian is done, I'm finishing my formatting book. So I decided to wind back my formatting a bit because of how busy my life was getting, now that my kids are homeschooled by me. So I thought to myself, I just want to be able to pass on what I have learned about formatting to help indie authors do it themselves, because it is an extra expense, and it can be expensive when you want to put out lots of books. To be able to do it yourself is a really helpful skill to have. So I decided to write the book formatting formula, which hopefully will be out this year, fingers crossed, to help people with formatting. And then I also have a whole sci-fi book plotted, ready to go. And I'm excited about that one. And it's about a social media company that basically streams people's dreams. So instead, when you're watching Netflix, it's a movie. Instead of that, you're watching someone's dreams.
Oh, anyway. That's intense. Ooh, I'm excited about that. Oh, I'm going to be following so closely. I need to know.
So I have that one fully plotted, but of course, plots don't always mean anything.
Right.
And then I have a fantasy series that I'm writing, and the short story in the Magic and Moons anthology is called Rivera of the Moon. And it's a short story based in that world, and it's about the daughters of the gods who have been kicked out of the Celestials to look after Earth. as punishment.
Oh.
And they control the elements. So
yeah. Very cool. Oh, fun. So you've got a bunch of stuff going on, and I think it's going to be interesting seeing all of this come out because, I mean, you're a marketing rock star. I always see your stuff on social media. And
oh, that's good.
Yeah. I was pulled in. I think the fact that you really put the effort forth to get the professional cover is huge because a lot of indie authors can't do that. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It drew me in. So I'm excited to see what comes out next from you. But this is Read It With Whiskey, and it wouldn't be Read It With Whiskey without talking a little bit about whiskey. However, you don't drink, which is fine, no. Perfectly fine. So instead, how about you tell us something that you do in the evening to kind of wind down at the end of your day?
I'm a bit of a gamer. I think that's
fun.
What I do at the moment. I go through phases where I'm either obsessed with gaming, I'm obsessed with reading, or I'm obsessed with like TV shows. And at the moment it's gaming. So I'm just in one of those phases. So yeah, I'll just sit and game with friends online for a bit and not drink whiskey because it makes me unwell. That's the only reason.
I love it. So what game are you currently playing?
I play a game called Knockout City, which is dodgeball, actually.
Fun.
We have a little crew of us who go and play dodgeball online. It sounds silly, but it's so fun.
I love that.
And it's just it's good anger management. I don't need anger management, but like just throwing balls at people's faces. It's great.
Get that. Yeah. Any kind of aggression, just get it out with a video game. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Julia. Well, where can people find you and find your books and follow along with your journey?
Yeah, my books are on Amazon. They're also in Kindle Unlimited for now. My website is juliascottwrites.com, and I'm on Instagram at Julia Scott Writes, and I'm on Facebook, Julia Scott Author.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Read It With Whiskey. I had so much fun talking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
What an incredible guest. What an incredible inspiration story. Yet another author who found her story through a dream. There are a lot of us out there, you guys. And if you are a reader and you want to start writing, maybe you should just start writing down your dreams because apparently it's been working for quite a few of us. So me and Julia had such a good time, as you could tell, I'm sure. So next time on Read It With Whiskey, we have M.K. Williams. She is the author of The Infinite Infinite. And it's really ironic that this book came after The Mirror Souls because there is a concept of time travel in this book. So The Infinite Infinite, it's a good one, you guys. Girl wakes up and her world isn't exactly as it was supposed to be. It's just a little off and she can't really figure out what's going on. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So come back next time on Read It With Whiskey so then you can hear our interview with M.K. Williams. Talk to you soon. You've been listening to an episode of Read It With Whiskey. I am your host, Laura Juntunen, and I just wanted to personally hop in and say thank you so much for listening. Your support of the podcast means so much to me, and I would really appreciate it if you could go onto your favorite podcast platform and rate and review the show. By rating the show, you're going to help more people find the podcast so then we can grow. Once you review the show, share it on your social media, share your favorite episode with your friends, and come back next time to hear more from self-published authors. I'll talk to you soon.